What's going on, everyone? So, Brooke Hiddink here, founder of the High Ticket Ecom Incubator. And today we're here with Zach. Do you want to introduce yourself, Zach? Maybe where you're from, a little bit of background.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Zach. I'm from Boise, Idaho. Backgrounds in sales, um, typically medical device sales, medical technology sales. Um, yeah, got a family, putting in that work.
Good stuff, man. So, with your sales job, has that been primarily remote, or are you in office for the sales?
Mostly remote. Yeah. I did sales. I started my sales career in a store.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, remote. I do mostly capital sales. So a lot of that is travel. A lot of that is meeting in boardrooms, things like that. We do capital sales, capital equipment.
So, what led to you wanting to get into ecom? Has this been the first business you've started, or has it been something that you'd considered for a while, or what finally made you take that leap?
Well, I've kind of been a serial business starter since I was a teenager. I started my first business when I was 15. I was
Wow.
cleaning carpets. Yeah. So I've always had either like a side hustle or something, mixed results with all of that. Um, I had a business right out of high school that I actually sold.
Wow.
I was a kid. I had no idea what I had, so I sold it for too little. Basically, gave it away. And yeah, I've just been in business and in sales pretty much since a teenager.
Cool, man. So, with the store, what's been your best month to date so far?
Um, I had a couple identical months. October and November were pretty good.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So October was the top month. I think the store revenue was just under 40K.
Good stuff, man.
Uh, and, and November was just under that by like a grand.
Good stuff, man. Well, I was excited about this interview because I think it's important for people to see. So, when you got started, I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but could you maybe just talk a bit about when you got started? I'm not sure if you had something come up, but it was actually like your time had, like, from what I understand, your time had finished, and then you actually essentially rejoined, and then all of your success has come after. So, like, it's one thing when someone starts and they get results early, but I think a lot of people, like, they might tinker with it and then they stop and they give up and they never really get started again. Were you? You kind of stopped and then you said, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. You committed for another
Yeah.
6 months, and that's when the results have actually came. Could you kind of walk through what that was all like and what made you kind of double down to really make this happen at the end?
Yeah, so I always believed in the program. I started the program fully thinking that I was going to be one of those success stories where it was just a couple of months before I started making money. Um, my current employer, uh, there was some issues. I won't get too far into it,
Yep.
but there were some issues where it took a lot of my time. There was kind of some things about it that really deserved focus. And it was just kind of crappy timing, right? I start the program. I actually built the store within the first like 3 weeks. Um, and then all this stuff with my job happened. And it really took like 3 or 4 months to really focus on that. And then move my focus back. And by that time, I was kind of looking at, my 6 month deadline is about 30 days away, trying to figure that out. And so it took me about a week to decide, like, okay, I'm either going to, like you said, double down and really do it, or I got to just focus on my job. And because of the way that the job is structured, I really decided it's best to go ahead and stick with the program, double down, and it's been great since.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's super cool. Super cool on my end to see that. Because a lot of people get in that situation where you did, where they have something come up, whether it's related to work or whether it's related to family. Like, these things happen. And that's usually the end of it for a lot of people. So props to you for sticking with it, doubling down and seeing it through. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
so with the store, do you think so you another interesting thing is you're in a niche that I've seen a couple people not do very well in. So it's always interesting for me to see people in like a niche and some of them crush it and some of them don't do as well. So what do you think has kind of led to your success? Do you think it's like you have some good brands that really do well, or do you think you're doing a really good job with your website or your ads? Or what exactly do you think has allowed you to kind of separate yourself and do well?
I think my niche is in my core competency. Um, I've had a couple people ask me that. Um, and it really comes down to a good like start. If you jump into a niche, oh, this is just my opinion, but uh, I feel like if you jump into a niche just because you kind of think it's cool, or it's something that you have like fringe interest in,
Yep.
it's really hard to push through that wall, right? Even the guys that I'm sure that were successful right away, they had those moments where they were like, man, this ain't gonna work. Like, what am I doing? Like, this is not gonna happen. Um, that they jumped that wall quicker than most, but for me, that wall was like 4 months long, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that really that pushed me through core competency. I know what I'm selling. This is kind of the industry that I'm in already.
Mm.
Um, and so that allowed me to kind of get right into the brands that you really want, right? So um, because I have experience in this industry, um, I was able to kind of have flexibility in talking to people. I already have experience in trying to sell not only myself but a company,
Yep.
right? The idea of a company, and so I think that really helped. And really just pushing through that wall. My first two brands that I got, uh, I'm not even running ads for one of them anymore. It was, not a great brand, and it really dumped a lot of money into ads for it, but I didn't really understand why I was doing that. It only took me about 30 days to figure out, okay, I need to go after the the high name, high traffic brands, and then kind of the rest just kind of followed. Honestly, there's only a couple brands that are about 80% of my revenue for the store.
That makes,
Um,
yeah, that's usually the case, honestly. Like some people get, um, they ask about that, like, is that normal? And almost always that's the case. It's always a couple brands that will outperform. And I think you made a couple good points there. Like, I think when a lot of people get started, like it's very exciting. I remember the feeling like when you close your first supplier or your first few suppliers, it's a very exciting time. But you almost look at them with like rose-colored glasses a bit. Like even if you inside know that they might not be great, you'll kind of just ignore the negatives because you're so excited about it. And then
sure.
eventually you do get down to actually seeing what works, and that's when you start to see the results. So that's super cool, man. Do you have so you are in a bit of a broader niche. Do you have plans to, are you continuing adding more brands to that now, or do you have plans to expand the store into other product types, or what's your kind of next steps going into 2025?
So my next steps actually, I plan to have a kind of like a manager of the store. I've
Yeah.
hired somebody that I know actually, and I know a lot of the people in the school they hire off of like Upwork or um, you know, Philippines, whatever work.ph or whatever that is. I actually wanted to hire somebody that I could kind of build around.
Yep.
And so I know this person. I know that he can actually manage. And so it's a little bit more expensive, not as much as you might think, um, because he kind of he kind of sees the vision as well.
Hmm.
So the plan for the store is to build it to where he can run it and then start another one.
Yeah. And I bet you honestly, like if you have one really good operator, like it sounds like this person is, you
Yeah,
can probably have that person run numerous stores. Like,
that's the plan.
yeah. And that's ultimately a really good place to be in is when you have like a little collection of various stores and then you have cash flow coming in from the stores, but you can then also sell one for a nice chunk of change while not cutting off your cash flow completely. I think that's a really good, yeah, a really good, like there's two ways I can really see. The first way is to just double down on the one store and build it as big as you can. But I think this is another great option. Like once you get that first store up and going to a good spot, build like a collection of a few, which sounds like you're doing. So that's super cool. Um, would you ever, is that kind of in the game plan? Like, do you want to build some up and then sell them, or do you want to just kind of hold them and have cash flow?
Yeah, I mean the original plan was to build this one as big as possible, and then to make it like a supplement to my real career.
Yeah,
And I kind of that's shifted. I think that um, I will probably at some point end up moving away from capital sales and travel. I do have a family, so travel is something that is taxing in several different ways, right? So I think the focus is to build this store. I think this store, I could see why other people have a hard time in this niche. It's a very competitive niche. The margins are not the best. And, there's definitely niches where the margins are like, twice what they are in this niche. And so I think what I want to do is I want to build this one to where he can run it, use this store to build the next one, and that's where I'll kind of make the jump. This next niche is even closer to my core competence,
oh wow.
and um, so but at that point there's way too much overlap in the industries, right? So my industry now, I will be on the radar as soon as I get into that next niche. And so I need to be fully ready to make that jump, because once I hit the radar and people start to see me, that's it. I've already made the jump
Yeah. So at that point, you would want to go full time to ecom. So you still have both that right now. When you start the second one, you're probably going to go all in.
for sure.
That makes sense. That's cool, man. Do you have any employees or anything right now? Any VAs helping with anything out, or is it just you to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I just hired I would call him a VA at the moment,
Yeah.
um, just because he's remote and he's just doing product upload and he's doing, order entry, order fulfillment, stuff like that. Um, but I will probably end up hiring a couple more VAs, and probably um, out of the places that are talked about
Yeah.
uh, in the incubator, just as things kind of start to grow. Um, the way that I'm doing it is a little bit slower than usual, and I understand that, but I'm a patient person, so
That's
it's
good.
okay.
Yeah. I'm the opposite. I'm not patient at all. I wish I could borrow some. Um, cool, man. I think I have one more question for you. So I guess two more questions. So with the program, what's been your favorite part of the program? Like, where did you take the most value from it? Was it the one-on-one Slack? Was it having, I think Rodrigo's your coach to kind of reach out to for calls? What's been the most valuable part for you in the program?
Um, the most valuable is kind of hard to put um at a 1, 2, 3 type of deal, right? Rodrigo's been great. It's been really good to be able to bounce off things that I'm not successful with, off of somebody that's either already been there or has seen 100 other people that have been there, right? And figured out how to do that. Like one of the things that came up that was a huge value to me was when when Shopify asked me for inventory and stuff like that. And I think you put out a kind of a call to action for that sort of thing. Rodrigo basically was on the spot and said, look, just call your supplier, get a picture, all of that stuff, and it worked. I mean, that could have killed the store right off the bat, right? If you don't
Yep.
have a payment system, that's it. Um, and then I think the most dollar value was probably the way that system does the ads,
Yeah.
right? If I was to put a dollar value on something, it would have to be the way that um, the incubator approaches that part of it.
Did
Um,
you, when you did the ads, was that something that you picked up on pretty much right away? Or was that something that you were working with Rodrigo or Bronte on to kind of refine?
um, both
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah, so I picked it up, but because of the brands that I had, I was very confused about why they weren't doing anything, right?
Hmm.
So then I pulled in Rodrigo and Bronte, and they were awesome. Bronte did a kind of an audit and told me, okay, these look okay. You still have some screwy keywords and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
but get rid of this, and if it doesn't work out, then you have some other issues. Well, I did that. A couple of audits went by, and that's when I figured out, like, okay, maybe it's just these brands. I go back to SEMrush, I do all my research again, and yeah, they weren't the best brands. They don't have the highest traffic and stuff like that. So I did pick it up quickly, and it helped with the brand that I actually got that does, at least, 60 some percent of my total revenue. And my ROAS is awesome with that brand.
That's,
It's basically 2 to 1.
yeah.
So
Man, good stuff, man. I guess the last question then is for anyone starting out, considering getting into their first online business. So obviously you've started many businesses ever since you were a younger kid. What would you recommend about high ticket ecom? Do you think it's a good place for kind of new people to the online place to start? You've kind of seen a few different, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts or recommendations for someone just getting into it.
yeah, try and fail, do it, and push through the wall. Um, Even if you're feel like you're just dumping money, uh, as soon as you get that first one, and then you kind of build off of that. Even if it's very small items that you're selling right off the bat. Like, my store sold nothing but accessories for like a month, and I could not figure out why. I just didn't understand. Um, so push through the wall. I think high ticket ecom is good for newcomers. It can be, absolutely. You have to have some sort of, for me, sales history helped,
Yep.
right? Sales experience helped. Getting those brands, a lot of brands don't want to be in the e-commerce space, right? So, um, you know, selling yourself and selling your idea was a big deal for me. But yeah, absolutely. I think the sooner that you can get into it and get moving, um, the better it's going to be. Don't be afraid when you feel, you wake up at 4:30 in the morning and you're like, what am I doing? This is absolutely so stupid. I'm so dumb for trying this. If you push through that, it's only a few more days, maybe a week before that completely disappears.
Yeah.
So yeah, push through it, do it,
Good
try
stuff.
and fail.
I completely agree. I think that's great advice. Is a lot of people when they get started in their online business, they think that it's just going to be all sunshine and rainbows and no headaches, no frustration. And that's obviously not at all the case. It's hard work. And I think like anything new, whether it's starting a business, whether it's going to the gym for the first time, anytime you do something that you haven't done, it's going to be very frustrating. And there's no avoiding that in any business. So
Correct.
exactly like you said, if you can just kind of accept that you're going to be doing something new, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be frustrating, but you can just stick with it anyway and push through that. Then on after, yeah, a few weeks, a month, whatever it takes. Everyone's a little bit different. You will eventually get through it. You just have to stick with it long enough until you do. So awesome speaking
Yeah.
with you, man. Very thankful, very thankful for coming on. I think a lot of people take value from your story. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.